interest rates gone up again. Do you understand why? Hi, my name's Manda Walker and I'm the mortgage coach, and today I'm going to be talking to you about interest rates. Now, why is it so important? Now, interest rates, when it comes to mortgages, the mortgage interest rate tells you how much it's going to cost for you to borrow. So, for instance, if you've got a fixed rate mortgage, that means that you will be paying the exact amount every single month for that set amount of time. So, for instance, if you've got a 5-year fixed or a 2 or a 3-year, for that period of time, every single monthly payment will be the same. And then you can know before you even start how much of the loan you'll have paid off by the end of those 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, whatever it is. Now, the variable is exactly what it sounds. It can vary. So it's not like fixed. It will change. It can change from month to month. It can change every 6 months, 3 months. Basically, whenever the interest rate changes, it will also move with that. But it is purely down to what the bank decides. Then you've got the standard variable rate. Now, the standard variable rate, every single bank has one. They're not all the same, and they are what the standard variable rate would be. So when you're looking at a fixed rate, if you've got a fixed rate for 5 years, but then you've got a 25-year mortgage, you want to know for the next 20 years, if I don't remortgage onto another deal, another fixed rate deal, what will my interest rate be? So the standard variable rate of that particular bank will tell you what that rate will be after you come out of the deal. Now, they can only base it on what the rate is today. So obviously in 5 years' time, the likelihood of it being the exact same as today is slim, but they have to give you a gauge. They're saying based on today, your interest rate would be what that amount is, and that's the standard variable rate. The next thing is a tracker. Now, normally a tracker is based on the Bank of England rate, but it moves up and down, it fluctuates like the Bank of England rate does, but it's not the exact rate of the Bank of England rate. It has like a buffer in it, so it might be +1. So if the Bank of England rate is 1.25, then your interest rate would be +1, so it'd be 2.25. And that's how you work out the tracker. But the tracker, as I said, can move up and down depending. So the next thing is with interest rates. So now you understand the different types of interest rates. And if you've got any comments for me in the chat, by all means, pop it in. If you've got any questions or anything, I'm here to help you understand. Now, when you're looking at borrowing money, so you want to buy a property, so you're like, okay, I can't afford to buy cash. Who can? There are some people out there, but not the average Joe, as you'd like to say. So you're going to need to borrow. So you go to a bank. Now, a bank is a business. Now, what a bank does is it buys and sells money, for want of a better word. So it sells a product just like a lot of other companies do, but that product is money. Now, the original idea of a bank, which I thought was very, very good, is what they would do is they would encourage you to get a current account with them, where you would put a certain amount of money. I bet we've all got current accounts like that. You have to put your main salary in it and you get certain perks, or you have to put a certain amount of money in the bank every single month, and you've got to set up a certain amount of direct debits every single month. Now, the reason they connect the direct debits are what you need for the direct debits. You need money, don't you? So if you get all your direct debits being paid from this one bank account, you can guarantee that you will do everything in your power to make sure there's enough money in the bank account to cover it, or more. And depending on how long within the month, I mean, not everybody's direct debit comes in 2 days after they put the money in and then they're clear. They come, I know my direct debits, depending on what it is, will go different times of the month. So there are some times of the month I've got a lot of money in my account, and then there are some times I've got less. But if you're continuously having a lot of money in your account, it doesn't stand to reason or it's not very logical, or it's not the best thing to leave it all in your current account, because there's probably no interest on it, so you're not getting any money, you're not getting paid any interest for having savings in there. So people have a savings account, or they'll have an ISA or a LISA. There are lots of different savings accounts, but they do a higher interest rate than your current account. So then you'd put money in there. Now, when you are putting money into the bank account, what then the bank can do, I mean, nowadays it's all ones and zeros, so there is no physical cash, but the original concept of the bank was there are a lot of people saving, so they're putting money in the bank, and you think it's actually going into the safe and sitting there, just relaxing and whatever, but what actually happens is they make the money work. So what they do is they take all your savings and then they lend it to other people. And what they do to make money is, say they they save your money and they give you interest for saving money with them, say 1%. But then if someone asks for a loan and they actually loan your money, then it's 2%. Then obviously if they're only paying you 1%, but they're getting 2%, then when you actually pay all your costs off, you've got 1%, haven't you? So that was the principle of a bank. Now, more and more people are buying property, less and less people are saving. Therefore, the bank had to borrow money from other places. Obviously, it could borrow from the government, it could get printed from the Treasury via the Bank of England, but the majority of time, it actually purchases money or trades money, you would say, and that is where swap rates come in. So when you're worried why, or you're concerned, or you're thinking why do interest rates keep on fluctuating, i.e. moving up and down, moving around, this is one of the reasons, because of the swap rate. And the swap rate is how much money costs. It's the cost of the money. So when you're going and this is what they charge you for the money. Now, depending if the swap rate is really, really low, less than a percentage, then obviously once they've put their amount on top in order to get their profit, like in the example with the savings being a 1% and the borrowing being a 2%, they're making 1%. So once they've got the money, depending on the price of the swap rate, and they add there, it's called a margin or a markup. It's a markup when you actually add your fee on top, and then it gets passed on to the person that wants to buy the property. Now, that is why it fluctuates, because if the swap rate is higher, then obviously once they've put their markup on it, what they're going to offer you is going to be higher. And if it drops, then they should offer it lower. But what is also happening, so not only are the swap rates going up at certain points, which is affecting the interest rate, the other thing is supply and demand. Now, a lot of banks have a certain amount of staff. They have a certain amount of trained staff. It can take time to train staff, and you don't always know how many mortgages are going to be demanded. So what banks sometimes do is to try and control the demand, they reduce the supply. Now, if there was one bank, and obviously myself, as you know, I'm a mortgage advisor, so I get the criteria from the client and then I go on to my system and I actually check which is the best deal. When I mean deal, I mean which is the best interest rate, which is the plus the product fee minus any cashback, plus any arrangement fees, the whole cost of the mortgage, and what is the cheapest overall cost. And that is the one that I recommend for my clients. Now, if that one happened to always be the exact same lender, then I'd always be recommending the same lender. And then obviously if there are other mortgage advisors out there also doing the same thing, also sourcing products, also looking for the best deal mortgage, they may also find the same lender that I've found, and then we're all referring the same lender. What happens to that lender if they're at the top and everybody is referring to them? Well, when we're talking about documents being reviewed, getting the mortgage offer, and it taking 3 to 4 days, it can then be stretched out to 20 days, 30 days, 40 days. No one wants that. And the banks are completely overwhelmed by the amount of clients constantly, trying to do mortgage applications. Their website could be under a lot of stress. So what they do in order to control this, or what is a good idea in order to control this, is they either pull products. So for instance, if there was a particular mortgage that was really, really popular, but they'd already, they've got so many clients that have already put in mortgage applications, maybe they temporarily take that product out of the mix. Or if they just don't want to sort of stop it completely, they want to slow it down, maybe they increase interest rates at that point, because they know then they no longer are the top when we're searching, trying to look for the best deal. They're 3, 4, or 5 down the line. Then maybe that slows down demand and it helps with their staff. So that are basically the reasons. So obviously today I've explained what fixed rate is, what variable rate is, what a standard variable rate is, what a tracker is. I've also explained about how banks are a business and how they run. I've explained about swap rates, and I've explained about the supply and demand and tactics of how to slow down the high demand, basically. So I hope I've answered a lot of your questions about with interest rates. At the end of the day, sometimes banks change their interest rate 2 or 3 times in a row, because they are trying to figure out what is the optimal rate that will slow down the demand for their staff. Because at the end of the day, that it's not like they can just have new staff come on tomorrow. They will need full training, and then by then the interest rates may have dropped and or increased, and there's less of a demand. So they're not going to, spend all that money on training staff. One, they haven't got the time. They need to come up with a solution right now. So maybe they're training staff in the background so they can slowly bring products back, slowly lower rates to encourage other people to buy. But at the end of the day, if it's a high demand and there's not enough supply, then these are tactics that are used. So I hope that explains it, and I hope you found this useful about why interest rates are rising so quickly. And as I said, please feel free to post in the comments if you've got any questions, and I'll be more than happy to reply to them. So thank you very much for your time. Take care. Bye-bye.